Go. Hello and welcome to the Mastermind Body and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. Today's guest is a physicist, peak performance and mental training expert, author and educator in the field of human potential. After working as a postdoc researcher at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, he joined Mental Training Inc. in the USA and started working with elite and Olympic athletes in major sports, including tennis, swimming, UFC, BMX, and golf. Now based in Melbourne, Australia, as co-founder of Calm, Happy, High Achiever, he provides peak performance coaching to athletes, performers, and business executives. Inspired and trained by the greatest teachers in positive psychology, human potential, Zen, and neuropsychology, he teaches them how to use unlimited power of their mind to build an unstoppable mindset, grow inner strengths, and become happier. He has authored and co-authored several books, including Back to the Zone, Sport and Inner Excellence, or Sport and Inner Experiences, Your True Nature, Wisdom of Living Masters, and Hacking Your Creative Genius, that will be released in 2020. He is currently working on a group synchronization and flow with the goal to connect the sports fans worldwide and offer a completely new experience called Ultra Sync. Welcome to the show, Dr. Damien Lafont.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's a big intro.
Yeah, it's good, man. And there's some stuff missing. Well, you've done a lot of work, man. You're very fascinating. We had a call before this, and it was so great getting to know you and hear about your work. And we were diving into all kinds of things around consciousness and space and performance, just so fast. I just want to make sure. I meant to ask you, but did I pronounce your name correctly? Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, all
okay,
good.
Perfect. Cool. Well, man, it's such a privilege to have you on the show. There's so many things that you're working on that we can dive into. So why don't we start with just a brief intro about who you are, some of the work you've done, and what you're most excited about today. And I'm sure we'll dive into everything from peak performance, positive psychology. I love how part of your work is happily achieving, doing it from a powerful mindset of happiness, Zen, and contentment, with flow state, peak performance. I think that's a very important key that not a lot of people work in. So there's a lot of things we're going to touch on today. Well, we're also probably going to go a little bit into space. If you work at NASA and you've listened to my show, I'm going to have to ask you some questions on that. But just tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you again. I will do short, but my background is in physics, like atmospheric physics and all the climate science, and at the same time I study and I start to train in sport and all the mind stuff, like to understand the mind and to try to help sport people to manage their emotion, to get their mind together when they perform. And so in fact I started to accumulate a lot of knowledge, of like research, and a lot of things, in fact. And as you said, after my first beginning, like in research, and my time at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, I moved to the sport world and mental training. And still, I was learning a lot, and I tried to understand everything and to figure out, and like really with the idea, because I was taught like that. And at uni, you think you are going to understand, to figure out everything. But it was always there was always something missing. Always, I was like, there is something wrong, because when I was working with people, like. Not only the best athlete doing the Olympics, but also when I was working with kids, like beginners, or there was something, it didn't match all this technique to help them, even like the sport psych. Now it's like 20, 30 years of research and applications. But but so I was still digging deep. If I learn more, I will get better. I will I will be able to fix everything. The yips in baseball, in tennis, the lack of confidence, and all this stuff. And and the thing is, it's truly it's very frustrating because and if you only work with elite athletes, sometimes you don't really see it because in fact it's too easy because the guys they are already awesome. And they have a big ability for to be resilient, to learn and to do the work. But when you work with people who are busy, who don't have time, or who are really in the middle of life with kids, with stuff, and but who loves their sport, who loves their practice, who and and sometimes there is something like all the technique I've learned and people can find everywhere. There is something missing all the time, and so after I was like, well, it's really annoying. I need to find what's wrong with all this stuff, and uh, and after I went into so positive psychology. It brings a lot of good stuff, but it kind of simplify a lot of things. But after, I think the best thing because uh, I went through lots of philosophers and spiritual teachers and practices, and with my wife we tried many things, many like meditation, mindfulness, different type, different background. Uh, we published a book about like spirituality, so it's called Your True Nature because we wanted to find what is at the core of like every one of us, and so we went to interview a lot of spiritual teachers to try to find okay what could help people to just to feel better in this life, to feel better and to get the best of the times they have right here. And so we kept meeting people from Native Americans to Aborigines, from guru from India, good or bad, fake guru or awesome one, and after all this, so first conclusion, the message was and is very similar with the true teacher, like the one who really have an impact on people. And it's very simple. There is a simplicity, and there is no BS. There is no. It's really simple, and that's why, like a lot of people, they could be touched, and also they touch the heart direct. Often they talk from heart to heart, not brain brain to brain, and after, so I went into Zen more, all the Zen teachings, but not the Western Zen, like we can see now, like at the very beginning, the first teaching, like Wang Po or Dogen, like the very first Zen teaching, and if you look at it, it's just they just remove everything you don't need. It's everything. It's to get rid of the unnecessary, and and after I really realized, especially with this Zen stuff, that I won't get the answer of how to help people better, how to understand them, how to teach better, and well, how to make people benefit. All the things I've did, I learn and stuff. It won't be learning more and going deeper in researching and stuff. It will be in getting to the core of things and to keep it simple, like like very simple, because the most powerful principle and values, they are very simple, like it's love, kindness, care, space, silence, and all this stuff. If you think about it, it's simple as long as you don't try to explain them. And we have like science brought this way of instantly you need to explain how it works and to put a name on stuff, and it can break everything quoi. And after it's good to know because as we said like when you connect dot and when you want to teach you need a certain structure and to so people they have some reference to know what you are doing or but first as a teacher you need to always come back to this simplicity and and yes if you look at the spectrum of the best teachers since thousands of years and even if in the native tribes Australia US or it's always the core values that they are the pillar of their teaching of their society and and so I tried in sport first to to make things simple to not fall into okay you look like this that's your problem so we need to apply this technique because research shows that if you do that 3 weeks and after like because in fact people they don't need more stuff like they do things and there are so many information so many things that what they need is to to calm down to slow down and to just to walk to look at nature to and of course it's hard people in the cities are busy they have many things to do they have kids they work like, but there is a way to come back to yourself and to slow down and to find this inner peace and so first you can get in a better state in this optimal state for yourself first for your well-being for your mental health and also for to learn faster to have more insight intuition but the main goal the main purpose is not only about yourself if you do that the others are going to benefit from your good your well-being and your good state and if you have that in mind that if you take care of yourself not in a selfish way but if you are able to have more harmony like body and environment which are not separated but if you find this this synchronization between you and everything else like other people they will be part of this too you will radiate you will vibrate at the same frequency so in fact in my work it's this from like I say keep it short but to make it shorter it's from a lot of knowledge learning and searching the like many people as they search what's the secret of my life the universe and stuff and I went to cut everything I don't need this I don't need that I won't get to make it simple and so it's why we call that with Natalie we call that like calm happy and high achiever not in terms of I'm the best of the world and stuff but first you need to have a quiet mind and to have space to make the room for insight and creativity and after so we say happy but it's beyond happiness it's lasting happiness it's more like inner peace because happiness it come and go and goes but to really find this inner peace inside and others they can benefit from you and I achiever because if you do that if you have space if you find this inner peace because there is room from creativity insight intuition you will find your way you will find your purpose and you will achieve great things great things don't mean you are going to win like the Olympics or to walk on the moon or to be a president not sure it's the greatest thing to be president but so in fact, it's just to achieve what you are supposed to achieve. And but if you there is a big stuff about how to find your way, what is my purpose, all this stuff, and it's kind of funny because after I did the same, so it's funny. I make fun of myself, and people they go to courses, to workshops, they go to many mega teacher, and they pay mega bucks for to know their purpose. When again, from the wisest guy on the planet alive or not present, I don't say dead, but not present, the answer, and they keep saying that a lot, but we don't listen. It comes from you need to make space here. You need to make space, so it will come to you. And it's not learning more stuff that you are going to find your purpose. And to finish this this long story, and for me, the kind of awakening for this need for simplicity and how to find your purpose. It's a good. I was sitting on the stair in front of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. So there is a big building, the administration building. So I was starting a lot of stuff. I was entering this big meeting with like all this computer, and I was understanding half of what they are talking about. And you walk in this room and you see the guys that got the Nobel Prize for climate change stuff, and you come, and I was like, that's crazy. And so I was working. It was a lot of effort because I'm not a computer guy. I'm more like a big picture, and so I was kind of struggling in the hard science part. And during lunch, I was sitting on these stairs, and because at the same time I was starting my book about the zone, like Back to the Zone. So I was starting to contact people about the zone and what it is, how do you enter this optimal state, and all this stuff. So I was doing that on the side for fun, and on the start. And I was on the phone with Dan Millman. I don't know if you know the Peaceful Warrior guy. So because I contacted him and he called me back, and so it was lunchtime. So I was supposed to be doing my computer stuff, to be in the math and physics like crazy. And here we go. I was it was kind of out of time stuff. I was sitting here. I was seeing people busy, and we were talking about the zone and the flow stuff, and he started, and I didn't really understand at the time, and he was keeping telling me, look at the martial art, look at there is a way there, and there is something about mastery, and I think you should look at that better and stuff, and I was like, well, in fact, and here truly I was like, my stuff, it's not physics and this research, like all my life, it's something else, and I think it's more to understand the big picture, so I can help people to see and to see there is a different way to live and to perform, to live and to interact with people and with yourself. But it was really I was in the middle of the like big mind people. And at the same time, I was like, maybe the answer is not in knowledge and this hard science stuff. There is something more, and it's more subtle, and we may not have the answer, but it's okay. And if you are humble enough, you can you will find your way and all this stuff. And it was I can remember still, and it was a big moment, in fact. So now we do that. We move to the country in Australia, and we help people more to take them in to make to simplify, to reconnect with nature, like you do like with your teaching too, and you know that better than me probably, and to find the core values, and to after it seems as a human being, we need the discipline to master the mind because we get distracted but once you find once you make room and you are able to make this space for creativity and insight, once you find your purpose and once you have this love for what you do, you are not distracted. You don't need motivation. So I don't believe in motivation stuff. I don't believe that. I don't believe in goals and stuff like too much. People they expect me to set their goal and stuff. If you love your stuff like crazy, you don't need to set up your alarm or to go to a motivational speech. You just do it like you just love it, and you are upset to go to sleep because you can't do it more. So yeah, so from knowledge to simplicity in 2 words.
Well, man, yeah, that's amazing. Well, when we had our conversation before the podcast about a month ago, I think a lot of the values that you have, we share in the way that you're very balanced. Not a lot of people will talk about like the Zen side of things. It is very Western in the idea. When you said Zen, it's like not Western Zen, and positive psychology has a Western way about it. Peak performance, flow state, optimal living, and all that kind of thing. And you're studying from yogis and people like, Zen philosophers and the best teachers you can find. And then you're making it simple, and you're talking a lot about, how we can do better by creating less. It's not about, getting more and stuffing the brain with more information. It's actually might be the opposite, and identifying the values, your core values and principles. So you're flowing there. So I think that you touched on a lot of amazing things, and I definitely resonate with all that. So my first question would be and you've touched on this a little bit, would be, what do you recommend for people who want to, enter the flow state? They might be a regular person in their life, and they want to just do better. They want to find their purpose and know how to get into flow state because, that they want to function higher. And then you've got like that peak performer that they're in business and they're always looking for that extra 1%. And you talked a lot about the missing piece. There's something missing, and I think you've alluded to it or said it directly already. But I'm curious if you can talk about the missing piece and some maybe elements that people can consider when trying to enter flow state, positive psychology, so they can live and experience calmness, happiness, and become a high achiever.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So with the missing piece, so it's not it's not something new or like coming from science or something. It's really in fact there are two things, but they are related. It's the missing piece, it's space. Space in a different, you will see in different meaning, and space and selflessness, like not only giving and charity and stuff, but selflessness, like you are part of something greater, and you do that, but not for your little you, and like that's where I find all the self-development, self-help, itself, like little self. So everything. So people, because the truth is like, and you have some friends, they see the big picture, and they are Native American and stuff, and they are not into this self stuff. And people, in fact, they are craving of this big picture and this. To come back to this true nature of we are part of something, we are all kind of one, but not one like new agey stuff. It's a fact, and the separation is just created by like it's kind of historical stuff. Science really made it bigger, and because as science started to take over everything, it's us looking at the world from outside, and we can control, observe, and stuff. And so first, we pretend we can explain from far away. No, we are inside. We are part of it. So you cannot explain like if you are part of it, you won't have you won't have the view, the perspective, and people they are craving that in fact. And the paradoxical stuff, they are searching this in self development, like their own the way to do it. And now recently with neuroscience and other things, and so they come together, like they meet with the Zen teaching and the old teaching, that the more you put your attention to others, to other things, space included, quite space between you and the tree, space between now and tomorrow, between whatever space. That's where your well-being is getting better, your physiology, your mental state, your creativity, your connection, everything, all the factors of your life for your own person, they get better when you start to not focus on it. Like it's when you focus, it's like when you lose yourself, then that's when things start to happen. So the best performing artists, they know that. People in the zone in sport, they know this. And one of the forgotten factor in sport, if you take all the parameters described for the flow state by Csikszentmihalyi, the guy who did all the book about the flow, the less touch, it's the selflessness one. They talk about time, blah, 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 and a lot of things, the balance between a challenge and your skills and all this stuff. But when they don't really know what to do, it's the selflessness. Because after it doesn't touch the person, his skill, and it's just you merge into something greater. And there are many testimonials, especially in the work from Mike Murphy from Esalen, the Esalen Institute, when they did this book in 1974, it's called In the Zone, and they collect all the testimonials of people in sport and other fields, to ask them what happened when they are in this zone. And many times, sometimes even in NFL, in other sports, the guys they enter the field and they are absorbed by the event, and they lose themselves in fact. And after they lose sense of time and everything. And so one of the answers of how to help people is to cultivate this selflessness and to not focus too much on like your own parameter, your own this and how you do this. So you need to have space to do that. You need to give yourself space, and not necessarily you don't need a lot of time to do this, but you need to learn again to give yourself the mental space, not only the physical one, to walk again, to take time, to just wander, and to not be frantic 24/7. And you can learn that, and to learn to do this, it's not you don't have to learn stuff. Like you don't, like the children, they do that when they play. They have this way of they are able to lose themselves in their character, in their play, and we all feel it when we do something we love and we are absorbed into it. And often we don't let ourselves doing it. We are too much in the like you have to analyze, to understand, to set goals, to evaluate, to check things, and there is no time for to let things happen, and to trust that okay, it's going to be all right, and you will have the right idea. You are not alone, and if you're able to connect with your environment, people around you, they are here too, and they will feed your brain, your body, your everything. So calm, and it's going to be okay. And so to come back to the Zen stuff, in the Zen teaching, they teach that. They teach to focus on emptiness, void, like it's a lot about it, and it's not only to be vacant and to be a zombie. It's to of course after now the Western world took over this stuff and they took mindfulness and after so now they use that. So mindfulness, you have this technique, you have to do the right technique again, quoi, to do. But no, there is no every technique like it just you don't need this technique. Like, after it's hard to grasp because we need some discipline, but the discipline once you find this space and the benefit when you feel the benefit of space and selflessness, after you don't crave for all the distraction and like the what we are fed 24/7 is the media or commercial and stuff. And so first, so there are some clues and some advice in the Zen and other teachers. Mindfulness, the simplest one are the best. And also, there is a very, very good stream. It's still going now. It comes from a very brilliant, maybe the most brilliant physicist of our time, probably better than Einstein. A few people, they know him. And his name is David Bohm, Bohm. And so it's craziness because so I'm a physicist, a doctor in physics. I did all my courses, and I didn't know him except for a little book about quantum physics. So he's a quantum physicist. And this guy, so he was considered by the Dalai Lama as his scientific advisor, and by Einstein as his like spiritual son, quoi. Like he was continuing his work and kind of. Quoi. In fact, it's one of the only one at this level of physics to connect with consciousness. So he dared, at the risk of his career, because he was can put on the side a little bit. But he dared to link. Okay. Well, my knowledge about quantum physics and what did I learn from quantum physics and how the universe seems to work and how it seems to function. So what does it teach me about myself, the mind, consciousness, ID, creativity? And he started a long period of discussion with Krishnamurti. And they met with people like Rupert Sheldrake, who work on the field, as the morphogenetic field, like the different like field of consciousness between species and all the inside stuff. He met with Zen teacher, with Buddhist, with the Dalai Lama, with neuroscientists, and my point is, he came to the same conclusion than this Zen teaching about space and the need of people to come together, not only individually, but really the need to come together. And he calls that a dialogue, which is different than a discussion or because his way to see the dialogue, it was to open space for insight and creativity to come by itself, because the nature of the universe, the nature of reality, you have to let this stuff unfold by itself. It happens. You are part of it. It's not like it happens to you. You are not just nothing. You are part of it, but you need to order first. You need to order your thought, and before this, that's where the discipline is coming up. The process is you need to order your life, because if you are frantic, disorganized, your brain is following. So you need to order, make your bed. There is a famous talk. If you want to change the world, start to make your bed. So you order your life, and after you will have room to order your thought, And for yourself, and after when you get in group with other people, that's where magic happen in a way. Creativity will happen, healing will happen, your connection with like the whole consciousness will happen. And what's amazing, so there are two things. So people, they don't know David Bohm, which is insane. Some people, they know it, but like if I'm a physicist and I'm interested in this stuff and I know him since only 6-7 years or a little bit more, it can. After I was in France, a lot of books are not translated, so it was a problem too. But so he came to the same conclusions and the teacher and Krishnamurti with his background in India and he has a good insight about the role of the mind, the one mind stuff, the wholeness of things, and they were on the same page in a way. It was good because they were criticizing each other in a positive way, and they let people in their discussion. And from after it's a long stuff to listen. You have a lot of recording, but it's really amazing things. It has never really been used properly in organization or in the society. And there are only two people. They took this material and they start to apply that in our world. And I talk about that because we can use that individually or in our group, in our family, in our community. And people, they search the big change in the world with the top-down stuff. The UN is going to do this to save the planet. And in fact, the answer, it comes from this ability for us to get together in a selfless way, to open the space for that, to let this creativity inside coming, but at the local level, at the community level. And some people like Charles Eisenstein, who work a lot on climate, sustainability, a new way to see things and to really cut with the old story of seeing things, the dictature of science and the way it is, to use it as a tool, but not the way we use it now. And in fact, to start locally and to use this small group as not like just brainstorming, because people, they would say, it's just brainstorming and you put your idea, but it's more than this. It's to be humble enough to have this trust that there is something that will unfold from your connection, from your sync between you and your environment. So David Bohm, he came to the same conclusion than all these spiritual teachers. And one guy came to him when he was in England, when David Bohm was in England. There is this, he was a lawyer before, his name is Joseph Jaworski. He's in America. And after he went into entrepreneur business, the business world, and he wanted to apply that to the big organization. He asked him, what can I do so people, they have more spiritual insight, they have more depth into their practice, even in the corporate world, in the business world, because you cannot just say, okay, I do my spiritual stuff, and there is all this business stuff on the side. They have a huge power, and if some business leader, they get into more depth, spiritual life and insight, they will be able to drive a huge amount of people through their companies, the corporate world. So he went to him, and David Bohm told him, it's up to you. You will have to find, it's totally open, but there is a way. It has never really been used except by the native. And David Bohm, he talked about that. He talked about the similarity with the Native American people when they get together and they are able to get together with no purpose, just to be together, and they let things unfolding from this. And so he went to see, and so Jaworski tried to use that. It's some people, but after the problem, often people it's on the edge, so instantly it could fall into. Driving this into greedy stuff, or they lose the big picture that it's not the usual way of functioning. It's more open and more open to this wholeness. And one of the book of David Bohm, it's called Wholeness and the Implicate Order. And so he was big on this stuff. And another guy from MIT, Peter Single, he's using that. So this teacher from MIT, he has a background in a Buddhist meditation, mindfulness, and all this stuff, and he tried to bring this to the big organization. So sometimes you cannot go to them and say, well, it's we are all one, it's consciousness, and stuff. So he's doing the Trojan horse strategy. He goes to this organization and he explains this system and this way to. In fact, he just tried to instill this dialogue between people, but in a new way. But behind this, there is a huge, deeper picture about our ability to reconnect with the universe and to let. That's very important, right? To surrender and to let things unfolding. And because it happens every moment, every second, when things doesn't go or doesn't feel your way, it's because there is a block, and this block it comes from this part of your brain, your cortex, trying to make sense of things and to connect stuff that it doesn't make any sense. You make stuff with all story, with your archetype, with stuff it's a big mess. When at the beginning it's just simple. So again, here from David Bohm, from all this complex quantum physics, he came down to very simple stuff. You let things, you reconnect people face to face locally. At this time, there was no social media So I'm curious about what David Bohm would have said about all this Facebook and stuff, because I think there is a power we can use too, not in a way, in a selfish way, but a huge selflessness stuff through the social media structure now. So same thing, from complexity to simplicity, and to try to apply that locally. And after your question about how people they benefit from that and for their peak performance, for their functioning, it's this. The answer, it's not in learning another book about your way to meditate better and stuff. It's to get together with your circle and share your block. It's not a psychotherapy stuff either. There is a space for that too. And start again the dialogue in your family, in your circle, and that's where your change and your optimal state is going to come. First from your body. Your body is going to heal and to get better, not by yourself in your little room feeling isolated. It's together. The answer is from the togetherness. And after it's hard when you talk to people in an individual sport to say that, but the truth is, and it's why now you see in an individual sport like tennis, they work more as a team, more than before. They always talk about their team because they find the edge. It's unconsciously because they find the edge in the together stuff. Team sport, of course, but so it's really the answer is in the local open dialogue.
Damien, man, that's so fascinating that you brought all of that David Bohm into it, who's extremely brilliant. Yeah, and nobody really talks about him. And I actually didn't know that he did. I should have known that, but he did a book with Krishnamurti, who is amazing. And like you said, some of the gurus aren't at the same level as the other gurus, And people like Krishnamurti, he's legit. Yeah, I remember one of his quotes, and someone asked him, "He's like, Krishnamurti, how long should I meditate?" And he's just like, "Why do you want to meditate?" And the guy's like, don't you meditate? He's like, yeah, I meditate, but why do you want to meditate? And so that's, a master teacher. I say it's like playing tennis with a wall. No matter what you ask them, it's coming back. There's no way. It's incredible. You touched on a lot of really interesting stuff. I really love the idea of thinking about the community and getting out of yourself. The way that I've phrased it in Zen Athlete, the thing that for me was a little bit different. It has the elements of peak performance, really simple stuff, but the core piece is the Zen aspect is as being whole as a human being, no matter win or lose or where you are in the process, making sure, like you said, have your life in order, have your house in order. Because when it comes to the flow state, when the game day or the winning shot or whatever the case is, or getting the job or all that thing, if your life is in order, and it's nice and simple and you're being a good person and you're thinking about the big picture and how you can contribute, you're naturally at a higher state. You're receiving more information. And the other thing that you're touching on is that space. We wake up, the alarm goes off, and we're just stuffing our mind with techniques. I got to do this right meditation technique, then go to the gym and do this right technique, and then go. And we're not valuing that space. And that's a very, very important principle. So, and also just being a good human being, thinking about other people other than yourself, because as long as you're thinking about what I can get, how I can perform, which is a part of it, but if you're only thinking of that, you're not going to excel in the same way with a mindset that considers contribution. It considers the whole. It considers the big picture. It's really important stuff. And what is so fascinating, because we've had our discussions before this show and about last month, is what you're sharing about sitting in group. And you've worked with physicists, Zen masters, gurus, and aboriginals, and I've worked with Native Americans as well. And the one that I'm working with, that I shared with you some of the physics that you looked at, and I showed you some of the resonator stuff, and you said that was fascinating. What's interesting is you're talking about what I did a teaching this weekend, and I was explaining the physics. So my Native American friend, David Lonebear, he has built technologies. He's put balloons into outer space, 800,000 feet. These are very advanced technologies. And every time he speaks, he says, the elders taught me this, but the most important technology that I was taught was T's, and they stand for time, earth, air, and space. And all you do is you sit in a circle, and there's a structure to it. You have somebody who leads it, and then there's two people that help. And really, it's sitting in a circle. It goes one way and then the other way, and it allows everybody a voice, an equal voice. No leader, no. It's the group mind. And what it does is, he said, this is a technology that I was given by my elders to share with you guys. It's not a talking circle. It's different. It's so that we're harvesting the wisdom of the group. But it's interesting because this weekend I got more information on the physics of the shape, and I don't know the physics part. It goes way over my head, but he explains it in depth on how this is actually physics. And what you're doing is you're cultivating an environment and a space where spirit can come in through the group. So you can't do it as an individual. And there was a person in the group, Jacqueline, who was on the podcast. I think it's episode 198. If you look up Jacqueline Ouellette, Ouilette, might be two L's, but she had Lyme disease. And she was going through his teachings and saying, can you help me? She was bedridden, really ill, super terrible condition. And finally, after a few months, they did a bee's breath. And it's like there's a breathing technique with a group of about 50 people, I believe. And they did this breath, and they all focused that intention on her. And he had told her in the past, I can't heal you, but a group of people can help you. It has to be a group. And he always speaks about community. And so when this happened, she had this bolt of energy, like a lightning bolt, going through her body that I think lasted for a week. It might have been 3 days or a week. You can go back to the podcast to check it out. But she said that was the catalyst to my healing. Now she's running. She's doing martial arts. She's way beyond what she was from bedridden. But again, a group. And what you're suggesting here is this group intelligence, not about the one. It's pushing over the ego for the higher picture, for the spirit, for the community, for the connection. And this is very similar to what you're working on with UltraSync, which I'd love to hear more of, because again, you know, obviously there's connections with the Aboriginals in Australia, and you know that's there's a lot of similarities in a lot of different ways. We won't go into the ETs just yet, but sitting in the group, harvesting the wisdom of the group, but doing it in community. You know, the importance of doing it together. And one of the analogies David shared was when you have the Super Bowl, if you imagine that people were that excited about peace, that excited about making a change on the planet, how much could we change? And it sounds like you're with UltraSync, it's that idea. And for me with sport and Zen Athlete, the reason I steered there was because, you know, athletes can be some of the biggest influencers on the planet, actors, musicians, and athletes. And athletes and teams are about building community. It's about making a better self. It's about improving yourself, but also connecting in a community. And we're not valuing the community aspect as much. We're not valuing the martial arts in the sense of mind, body, spirit, like Dan Millman. I think that's an important element. So we haven't valued that as a society. And if we can start to value it and prioritize it with using the discipline part and what we need to know about the hard sciences in a balanced manner, we can really make extraordinary progress. So I'd love to hear more about UltraSync and anything you'd like to give me on feedback on that.
It's good that you bring like this community and the power of group, and also there is something about we need to also to be able to move on because there are a lot of things about where this stuff doesn't work. So we criticize what's wrong with other technique and stuff. And in fact, we don't care. We don't care this stuff. Like we kind of know, we have an idea of what could be better from the past, or even technology bring good stuff. What you talk about this when we're able to vibrate, to sync together. Now, a very small device accessible for everybody can give you the feedback if you get into sync, if you have a better harmony with your brainwave, your heart, your nervous system. So technology now, it's good to kind of check if you do the right thing in the so. But well, because there's a lot of time to like in this even in spirituality to criticize. Don't do this. We don't really care. Like we know there are some stuff like not really used yet, very powerful, or abandoned because we are thinking we are smarter and it was too primitive or stuff like that. So just after now, just go back to this, go back to nature, space, and all this stuff, and. So that's the first. But this group thing is very important, in fact. And in the Western world, we tend to be isolated in the city. I used to live in Los Angeles and stuff. So even if there is a community, it's frantic. Sometimes there is only concrete. You have zero green stuff. So this group connection, it also is very linked to nature, because no matter what we think, we are not we are part of it. We are not here to master nature and to control it and to we don't know much about it. And one of my conclusions working after my postdoc, I was in the Earth department, and my field is the cloud and how to get the measurement from cloud for the climate and stuff. And my conclusion is we don't know much about the cloud, and also in this climate change. So the climate is changing all the time. So this climate change, it doesn't really mean anything, but the climate is going to change anyway. But after this warming and all this stuff. So the effect of this warming on the cloud, we don't really know the net effect, because it could create a certain type of cloud that's going to make it warmer, or other type of cloud that make it colder. So, and the truth is we don't know. So after, it doesn't mean we have to wreck the planet because we don't know, but there are a lot of conclusions. We don't really know people, they don't know what they are talking about. The politics, they have no clue. They have zero expertise on the field. They just repeat stuff. So that's one a little bit about climate I want to say. Even the message, it has to be really to nature. We are part of it. We have to respect it and to love it. We don't have to love it. We should reconnect and find this space to love it again. And Charles Eisenstein is really into his message in his book, like the last book, Climate something. It's, love your garden, love your trees, and you are going to respect the planet. And from this local stuff, the community, the group is going to change, to do the change. Not again, it's not going to go from top bottom stuff with taxis and stuff. I don't think so. So, but with these group things, one little thing is we can use it for the environmental climate change. It's the same thing. Like we talk about performance or business, entrepreneur or whatever. But this dialogue and what you talk about with the Native American, this ability to get together and to get in sync and vibrate together, it's also to solve problem. You leave the space and the insights are going to come, and you will have the idea. Maybe not you alone, but the interaction of you. But it's more also the together connected to this one mind, wholeness, and because the answers are already here. Like if you check any powerful teaching, they tell you can tap into infinite knowledge, infinite intelligence, and the lack of humbleness. We are not humble enough to think because even the researcher, they think it comes from them. They discover things and all this stuff. Zero. It's already there, and through discipline, focus, attention, and they are able to find their way to this infinite knowledge, and they get the information. It's like the matrix is good. Like you can tap into the matrix. Some people, it's random. The psychic, medium, they tap into this stuff randomly through sensory trigger often, or other people, they take drugs. They tap into it too. They control it more or less. There is a big stuff about the micro-dosing stuff. It will make your life better. That's all. Of course, if you alter your brain, you can tap into it, but after a time, we don't really know the effect in long term. So we play a little bit with fire, but art, we know you can tap into this infinite consciousness, this wholeness of things. And the artist, many times, like in the book I'm finishing, they talk about they do this discipline. Many of them, they do Zen practices or meditation, deep breathing, like dancing, choreographer, musician, composer. So they prepare their mind, as you said. Sometimes it's in group when it's beautiful way in like the dancer when they do choreography, and it's a togetherness. So here we can see there is no really it's really open, and they open to give to people. So they find this synchronization together, and they tap into this infinite stuff. And so it's really nature, and to get this power of synchronization. And to go back to UltraSync, initially this idea, it was from to help the elite team to have a better team chemistry. And we tried to monitor them, like heart, brain, and to check everything. And our idea is to exactly what you do. People they can't see, but before you start your show, you do deep breathing and you set your intention. And in fact, in our training, because we still do, we are going to do that too. It is the same process. I'm teaching sport. I'm a tennis coach too, and before every single listen, I make people start. Before they start a new skill, I make them do deep breath. I do change of attention. So I open, so they defocus their eyes. So it makes them relaxing and entering in alpha state. You do deep breathing, it reinforces this state. And after you get into things, when you do deep breathing, after 2 or 3 deep breathing, your heart starts to vibe, to have the right frequency. Your nervous system transmits that to your brain, and you get into sync. Your entire body is more in harmony, in fact, and you are ready to learn, or to listen, to do it, or to let the creativity unfold and stuff. It could be very quick. The more you do it, the quicker you get into this state. And it's not complicated. It's just deep breathing. You do like a cycle, like 10 seconds. 10 seconds. You can do 4 in, 6 out, or stuff like that. And you set your intention. And after you start. So our idea, it was to do that in a team and to give the feedback and to help them to self-monitor themselves and to not have the team chemistry not only coming from the mega awesome coach like Phil Jackson, Popovich, and because people they expect the messiah, the guy coming and doing the magic. Yes, it's possible, but the percentage of Phil Jackson, it's not crazy. So there is another way, and the players they can be part of it. They don't have to be passive. And if the team learn to do what you do, but in a systematic way, Phil Jackson he used to do that deep breathing before. He used to call that one breath, one mind, like hello. His background is a Native American Zen Christian guy, so he merged kind of like me, but he merged the best of them. But the thing is it's not only Phil Jackson secret, it's everybody's stuff. Everybody can use that at school, in a classroom, in sport, and in the elite team. Like in sport, NFL, MLB, like they search the edge on everything, but it's right in front of their face. Now the answer it's analytics, monitor everything, the data, where the guy move, where he's sweating too much, if he get tired too little bit. In fact, the answer maybe also it's in these practices Phil Jackson was showing. It doesn't come from him. He did a good merging. He did awesome job. But everybody can do that. And it's not. You don't have to be Kobe Bryant to do deep breathing, to prepare your brain and to do that. And that's the thing. I know you are also to teach the new generation, the kids, to use these tools because in fact they are natural tools. It's our true nature to use this stuff. And so our idea was to use that in the elite sport to show it works, and because people they need evidence, and even if we know it works, but if you have a big team using that, the thing is kind of crazy because Phil Jackson used that with some teams, but people they still think it was Phil Jackson. They don't think beyond that, thinking that okay, maybe what he was doing was we can do that, we can reproduce, we can improve it. We can do better, or we can try to take it to the next stage. And it's like, and so we first idea with the team. After it was kind of a limiting idea because the team said, why elite sport? Why some guys they're already awesome? They have awesome life. Why we shouldn't use that for something bigger? And after the idea is to connect, to use this group energy, but in the entire sport arena. Stadium, whatever, and to try to focus this energy, all the fan attention and intention, both. So first you make change their attention. You can teach them to focus their intention, and what I did to kind of educate. You can imagine 50,000, 100,000 people. Doing deep breathing having the right intention, and after they focus their attention on one thing. Like many group practices, to combine that with music or the right brainwave, like which is pretty much just rhythm, like the right rhythm, and not only people they get together, but you can count on this huge mass effect, the entrainment effect. You will have a brainwave entrainment, you will have a heart coherence entrainment, and the thing is nobody did that. Nobody tested that at this level. And our idea, and people they are like, why you would talk like today? Why you would talk about that? People they are going to steal your idea and stuff. So first, it's not my idea. Good if people they do that more for the good. Of course, it's going to be used for bad stuff or for silly stuff, but also it can be used for amazing stuff. You talk about healing, but if you make people focus their intention on someone sick, on a good cause or a positive outcome, just for peace, for some group all around the world, they start to do that. David Bohm, in his idea of a dialogue, there was something for the benefit of the world, for peace, for good, for positive stuff. But as you said, because sport is a powerful body, like you say, like sport, politics, artists, because of this huge amount of people who share positive. It's a common passion. They get together to have fun. It's something they love. Even if it's 1 minute, you make them together for something. It's an untapped power, and sport could become the number one place of positive intention, altruistic events, healing stuff. There are many studies about the power of distant healing and to positive intention, even with like people at TuneIn America doing EEG, like monitoring, and like from Tibetan monk saying intention on living being, on plant, on people in recovery from cancer, and we can see some effect, faster recovery, as you said, like sometimes spontaneous healing. Yes, it happens. But the thing is, the studies they are on 20, 30, 50 people. But what about 50,000 or 1 million people focusing their intention? Like, for example, NFL game. How many people are watching the game in front of their TV? And the thing is, and that's what people they didn't touch that yet, because not only you can connect people inside the stadium through technology. I won't go too far because it's not complicated, but it's not the point. But you can connect people. You can display the connection to people they can see, and it makes them feel. It will make them feel something different. But what people they didn't touch yet, it's if I'm in Australia and I'm watching your football game, I can contribute. I can focus my intention at the same time than you. And people, either the team in the center or people like the goal of our intention, people at the center of our intention, prayer, whatever, they can benefit of my little contribution on the other side of the planet. And people, they didn't touch it because it touched remote effect. They call that non-local effect from quantum physics. The fact that you have time and space doesn't work like linear physics. Like if I send my intention to you in your place far away, yes, if I monitor your brain and your heart, like here, if I focus on love, care, and we can pick up the change in your physiology 20,000 miles away from me. So there is something different, but and the truth is, in sport, you have like, I don't know, 50,000 people in a stadium, but you have 2 million watching around the world, or 5 or what. So imagine during the Olympics or massive events, soccer World Cup, like it's crazy, quoi. And if people they can feel and they start to be aware of this power, it's a huge power, uh, able to like it's a driver to change things in a positive way. So of course it's sport. It looks at the beginning, yes, it's starting sport, and because there is this community already, they come together at regular time. But I'm sure it's an instrument. It's one of the biggest instruments. People they search in sport. In sport, there is something to use in terms of energy and connection that it has never been used before. So that's ultrasync, and that's amazing.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. You know, when you were saying that, I just thought about like an idea of this experiment with commercials or something during sports games, or being at a sports game where, you know, this 1 minute meditation would come up, or guided experience. Yeah. Okay, go into the brainwave state. We set intention in Buddhism and Zen Buddhism. They're always thinking about global peace and the benefit for all sentient beings.
Exactly. So it's exactly that. And in our pitch, because we are at the stage research investor, so you are welcome if you listen to the show. But so we have good contact especially in the big marketing company in US or even in Europe, in the soccer world. So we try to choose because we don't want to choose to be carried away by stuff. But our idea is that the first stage is the connection, to display, to show the connection from people around the world, so they can see and feel the connection. The second level is to use that to help the team chemistry. The research has to be done, because once you connect people, you can use that for the team, and to show that concentrated thought is concentrated energy. There is an awesome book, people they know that, maybe it's the Master Key System. Maybe you know this book.
I know it. Yep, Charles Haanel.
And so again, a lot of people they know it. A lot of motivational guys, they use stuff inside. They never mention it word for word. Actually, I won't mention who uses it, but and inside one of the first chapter, it's this like concentrated thought is concentrated energy. So this book, by the way, I don't know where it comes from. The guy he downloads that. He used some bits and pieces from. I don't know where it comes from, the science of, so the New South from the 19th century. Some connection in India and native people. But this stuff about to be able to harness the power of the mind, it's very, very simple. And so the third level of the ultrasync, it's if you go to the website, it's kind of draft website. It's just one page to show people what we are doing. The third level, it's to use that exactly what you said. 1 minute, focus, like deep breathing, intention, peace, healing, peace in the Middle East, peace there. After a big catastrophe, like whatever, you send your intention and stuff. And after, there is something, some people they can see there is something, and they're like, well, did you test it? How do you know? So there are two funny questions. It's like, the question funny, I find funny, is like, what do you know people? Because that's the business world. What do you know people that are interested in being connected like that? And I was like, because that's what in fact that's what they are craving about on Facebook, on this, and that's this connection, but at a deeper level, at a level also for the benefit of others, no matter what. It's not for your own face and stuff. And so first, and the second is like, but did you test it? How do you know it works and stuff? The thing is, nobody tested that at million, like 100,000, and the study about non-local effect, distant prayer, group effect, it's done with very, very few people. And the study, they don't have a lot of funding. It's kind of crap, quoi. Like, it's very limited, and of course they can be criticized. The lack of like science discipline and stuff, because they did what they could with what they had. Quoi. But if you take to the next level, like even next level, and you jump from a dozen of people and you had 5-6-0 behind the group, I'm sure you change things, and also the big thing, you will raise the awareness of this power. And again, in this book, like the Master Key System, I think it's the first chapter. They say if you want power, you need to be conscious of your power. And people, they are not conscious of this huge power. They are not, because they are kept in this little world of frustration, where there is something missing, you don't know what it is, and you need to learn more, and it's never enough. You can go to Tony Robbins, you can go to this, to that. No, you go to this, you pay 1,000 grants and stuff. You need to go to something more and more and more. And they don't realize how much power they have, especially when they are together. This effect, and we can do that smarter, in fact. And sometimes it happens during history. For bad things like the war and stuff, there is this group effect. Some people, don't worry, in marketing and politics, they study what happened in Germany and stuff. Why people, like this synchronization for bad. Like what happened? How can you use that for other things, for commercial reasons? But how can we use that for the benefit of everybody? And it's why our project is kind of open source, and people, if they are welcome to join and stuff, because I don't care, like the patents, the stuff. It's this stuff this time is obsolete, and like this protection of stuff, it's ridiculous, quoi. And like if you have something good to share it. You don't have to brand your stuff and to sell your stuff for $100,000. It's ridiculous, quoi. But there is this, I believe, in the selflessness stuff, quoi. And our brain is wired for that. In our brain, I was talking recently to a guy who spent 40 years doing neuroscience and Zen practices. And I asked him at the end of the interview, I interview some guy, not as good as you, but I will put, it will be in the Calm Happy Ayashiva website. It will be more focused on how to do these three things, and so the guy, after 50 years, 40, 50 years, neuroscience and Zen, his best advice is go outside and look at the sky. So, and,
sounds like a Zen master to me.
It was because, and he explained me, because in our brain we have two pathways: the self-centered, which make you concerned about yourself and stuff, and the selflessness, the other, the space pathways. And so there is no point to fight our kind of egotistic way to do things, because it's kind of wired too. But what we can do, we can develop, we can feed and cultivate the selflessness, because what he explained to me very clearly, and it makes sense. And he showed it in his research. In fact, if you have like the self-centered here and the selflessness, and it doesn't work like you don't just grow the selflessness side of your brain. It works like this, quoi. So if you feed your altruistic way to do things, your ability to focus on space, to see the big picture, to look at the birds, the sky, like Zen type of teaching, you make smaller your self-interest and egotistic, self like things for the benefits of other people. And so we need to go more outside, look at the birds, and together.
Yeah, man. Well, that's amazing, and I really hope that your study gets off the ground. And I would be so curious to see what the results are. There's so much I want to touch on there, because there was a study on meditators in Washington on crime, and there's a 2-month study done, and you can look this up, the Washington crime study, and it showed a 23.3% drop in violent crime. Due to meditating, and the mayor was like, "Oh yeah, sure, go for it." He didn't think it was going to work. He was like, "Oh my God, it works!" And this was only a few thousand people, then alone hundreds of thousands. And I would also love to see too, do the group, but also an individual. You know how they'll do the Miracle Make-A-Wish Foundation. If there are people who volunteer that are very ill, and you put them up, and we see.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is possible, and I think we would have absolutely tremendous results.
I'm sure, and I'm sure you put someone in the center of a huge sport arena, and people truly, genuinely, and the sport fan often they have this genuine like they can, especially if people they belong to the same community, they have this community, this care factor, and. They do that a lot. They bring the kids who are sick and who are ill. They try to make them part of something, the wish stuff. But we did a huge science in 100 years and technology. Can we use that for not only for crazy stuff, but for people to feel better, for healing? There is so much need for healing and to make people more together. I think it will be amazing.
Yeah, 100%. And anything that I can do to help, I will support, because I've been saying this for a long time. And I think you touched on like this similar idea, a concept. It's maybe in private discussions and sometimes on the podcast. But it's an idea I've had in my mind a lot: the power of community, global intention, global consciousness, and set intention. There's so much that I wanted to touch on there. Phil Jackson in the book 11 Rings, and how he, like you said, he merged Christianity, positive psychology, and Native American tactics as well. And so some of the techniques he would use is just have them in a dark room and just make them sit there, make them meditate. And he has a great book called 11 Rings. And so I might be able to check that out, using things that people find odd. But the one thing that you touched on is that we're not using this power. We're not tapped in. We're kind of taught, I think, in our educational system, through magazines, through media, that we are small, that we don't have this unlimited power, that we need to stay separate, right? If you look at society, it's very much designed to separate and make us afraid. And I think that, this is a conspiracy moment, but the global elite, from what I've seen and what I see produced, and really the narrative, because if you control the media, if you can control music, if you can control education, which is all monitored by a certain group of people, different groups, and you look at the narrative going out, then you can realize what is happening to the mind, to the subconscious mind, to what it's doing to community. And it's not just for money, it's for a reason. And so we know for sure, if we get together in community, we can immense massive change in this. We could have peace within 6 months, within a month, if we united in that kind of way. If we united, like you said, in this community, when you go to a sports event, go to I used to think Canadian hockey fans were nuts. And I went to an American football game, and then I was like, oh my God, they're nuts. And then I went to Spain, and I realized that the Europeans in football is the pinnacle of absolute enthusiasm and insanity and like culture. And there's so much energy, and it's beautiful. And sometimes in like the world, it's been used not for good. It's been to separate and to divide. But if we could use that sporting energy of the culture of France, of Italy, of Portugal, of Spain, of all these things, and say, you know what, this is my culture, this is yours, we're competing now, and we want to win, and we're going to be upset if we don't. However, let's share a meal after. Let's realize that we're a global family.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that your family is okay, because at the end of the day, you know, we're human beings with families, and you want to make sure, even though if that's that guy on the other side, he wins, you know, if Canada loses to USA, I'm not going to be a happy camper. But do I want their families to be okay? Do I hope their you know, if somebody gets sick, like that's the human nature. We're supposed to do this event like the Olympics and the World Cup and all these things to inspire fun, to inspire community and global community. And right now it's being used as a very competitive, better than, winner and loser. And in Zen and all those concepts, there is no winner or loser. It's cultivation of spirit, it's cultivation of community, and it's a whole different idea that could be implemented seamlessly, instantaneously, if we could affect that kind of group. And one of the things I've said repeatedly is that if we could get control of our media, if we could control the media and create positive media and control that narrative that goes out, we could make massive change really fast. And when you talked about brainwave and heart entrainment, you know, Dr. Joe Dispenza is doing really great work, and people are healing themselves of terminal illnesses like pretty repeatedly, you know. But the one thing that I don't know if he does, I haven't been to his workshop. I did in a long time. I did his progressive and his advanced, but I haven't seen him use the community to direct it at each other. It's all been in the self, right? And what you're advocating a lot of, and what I've learned from my teachings and my ideas, the power of community is just so important. It's another thing. It's out of the mind. And you also spoke about humility. You know, that's such an important aspect of realizing that, you know, when we are humble, we're getting this information. It's not us. We're the vessel that's receiving it. And that's why the space is necessary, because we're connected to all things. And it's like the idea for monkeys, you know, and you're like, I have thought of this wheel, and the thought came in, and you make a wheel, and you're hoarding this wheel, and people see you with this wheelbarrow, and your life is getting good, and all the other monkeys are so jealous of the wheel. That's not our natural human nature. Our natural human nature is to share, is to improve the lives of others, is to make everyone's lives better. And you said like community is so important where you are. And I think that, you know, in America, people are going to be like, oh, someone's going to steal your patent and take your money and then take it away, which is what's being, that narrative's being promoted, and it's being executed on people because they're afraid, because they need money. They need to survive. They are in this competition mindset. I think that if humanity could go from, you know, when people talk about the new earth or 5D or anything like that, my hope is so grounded and simple that we change the mindset on this planet from competition to collaboration, from little self to big self, as you shared. And you know, you brought up a lot of incredible comments, so I'll let you share.
In fact, what you say is true, and even in sport, when people sometimes they come up with like, well, but the fans they fight each other, and sometimes it's kind of rivalry and stuff. But a good example is it's here in Australia. All the fans, the sport fans, they experience sport. Even people in America, they don't really know the Australian football. They think it's mega violent stuff. It's actually not. It's probably one of the like best sport to watch and to practice. And of course, you have some extreme fans. They are a little bit nuts and stuff. But when they go to a game here in Australia for cricket, it's peaceful, but especially for Australian football, they go to see a good game, and they go for the experience. They are not like ultra crazy in Europe. Same, but so first we can see here it's possible to experience that differently because they have the culture of family sport here in Australia, which is kind of different from Europe. Europe, it's more like very one side, but so here we can see it can work, and also you're right for the media stuff. Some people they do amazing stuff too, but because we can spend a lot of energy and time to fight the old and the old narrative, and what you say, the description is awesome, but I think it won't come like. If we have to leave the time to time, and if we educate the new generation to go to a sport event, to do what you said, to have 1 minute to focus to heal someone, and after it will be normal, quoi. It will be even in teaching before you start your school, your class. Like you start, you close your eyes, or you hold hand of your classmate, and you say, "I'm going to learn to help my classmate. It will be beautiful and stuff." You just do that. You do deep breathing. You connect on your heart. Some people they do. Joe Dispenza is doing group stuff. He actually monitors them, and he monitors the effect of doing group meditation on his group and the long-term effect of his meditation on people attending his stuff. He did a good stuff. Hein. He monitor heart, brain, energy and stuff. But same, it's kind of limited. And because he's associated with kind of new age stuff, some people they won't ask him to participate or to be part. Because some people they are too resistant. Like, well, if they think it's dodgy, I won't have funding and stuff. But it's not about that. There are some pointers to leading edge stuff that could totally change the way we experience group event and community. Why not trying to maybe like the effects are small, but I would think they are kind of huge. And now, and to finish, because I know you have to go, me too, but we could talk forever, but there is, in sport now, there are a lot of questions because technology is entering with artificial intelligence, VR, augmented reality, and they want to have this fan engagement. They want to involve the fan, not only in the stadium, but everywhere. And in the stadium first, of course, but ultra thing, it's also okay. You have fans in China, in Alaska, they could be involved and focus their intention too at the same time. But and their answer to this big question, because of course they want to make money, and so it's not bad, because from this money you can also focus on. You can imagine the fan focusing and part of the money, or even the media, or if it's a big brand. Imagine if it's a big brand in sport with anything, with the swoosh or anything else. Or if they are associated with something, when people they focus their energy and also part of the money of the ticket are given to something, like all the big brands, they want to be part of to have a good visibility for this stuff. So we can use this power of they are at the top, they have power. It could be used for the good too, instead of fighting always. And at the top of these big companies, no matter media, sports, you have some people, the new generation, the millennial generation, they have another mindset, and they see the business entrepreneurship differently, with the purpose to change for the good, not only for greed and stuff. So, and sometimes not at all for that, they want to do the best. But the idea is really to have these people, and the only answer they have now for this fan engagement, but not the only one, but it's betting. They are like gambling. We are going to make people gamble. We are going to authorize people to do betting, like gambling, live in the stadium and stuff. So they will be more involved. Okay, I'm not sure of this answer. I think there is a better way to engage the fan. Gambling may be not the best answer, even if it could be a big revenue for our company. I think we can do better than this, and that's what I did, and that's it.
Yeah, man. We're on the same page, so much. I think there's such a massive opportunity in sport to make incredible change quickly. And I think that your project, if it can be done, and I hope that it happens, and I hope it happens to the magnitude and scale that you imagine, to show that this power, because I have extreme confidence that it would show something and just changing the minds of people, connecting people more. And what you're talking about is just good human nature, teaching this to kids, and you teach your kid to share, you teach them to be compassionate, you teach them to You know what I mean? Just be good human beings and to have confidence. And we're, as older adults in society, it's not really gone that way. You know, we're still at war. We still have famine. We're not collaborating.
Yeah.
It's really a cutthroat society. And so I think that this has massive potential to make incredible impact. I remember you sending me when we had the conversation about these UMITE physics, UMMITE physics and metaphysics. We probably don't have time to go into that today. You could share a little bit on it if you want, but it was really fascinating. So we'll have to get you back on the show. You're welcome to share about it, but it was these, I had never heard about it, but you were telling me about it, and we were going to go into a little bit about big picture thinking and space and the possibility of extraterrestrials or space visitors or things like that, because the idea would be it opens minds. And I think that if there are other civilizations that are looking at Earth, that the possibility of them being here, how would we look to them as a species? We would look like, you know, if you look at Team Earth, we're not doing so well. And that's one of the things I like to hashtag is Team Earth. If we can cooperate, and not only these teams, but you think about Team Canada, you know, with Team USA, with Team Russia, with Team France, with Team, you know, China, working together in collaboration. And what are the things eroding that collaboration, right? It's these governments, and you can go into, you know, conspiracy stuff of families. And I think a lot of that is true when it comes down to money, and you just follow the money. You know, there's some great literature on these money and these groups of families. But that doesn't matter if the people unite. All of that doesn't matter. All of the systems that aren't supporting people, they fall instantly if we unite. And that's one thing that the internet can give us. That's one thing that an idea can give us. And, you know, look what Gandhi was able to do as an individual, but that became a movement, you know. And so incredibly powerful if we can begin to recognize our own power, no matter what, you know, things that may or may not be suppressing us. It changes instantly if we regain our power. So I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show. Definitely have you back. I do have more time if you have some more time, but you can either share to talk about that a little bit if you wish, talk about anything that, you know, you wanted to add on, or if there's anything that you wish that I had asked you. So feel free to, you know, go from there.
Well, just 5 minutes, and what you said, like, it's I join you with that. It's kind of to raise the awareness of our power, like in a good way, and it starts with to teach the young generation, the new generation, about their power, the power of their mind, and this wholeness of things, and that there is a bigger picture, and you are not alone. You are people. They can help you. They are here to help you. And as you said, a lot of people they spend time to fight the old, and yes, there are some lot of stuff about greed, about people who use this power and who are aware of it, and to use it for their own benefit, sometimes not for a good reason, like and they know very well all this knowledge about the subconscious mind, how to use the mind, how to reprogram the mind of people, and they use it in media, in politics, since long time. And always the huge mass of people, because the majority of people, they are a little bit behind. Some people, they are aware, and that's why they become teachers. They try to make people more aware of it, or like people dispenser other people, because they put pieces together and say, okay, guys, you can do better than what you do. You can stop being miserable. You can feel better, and the same knowledge, it's always classified as like weird, new agey and stuff. But at the same time, the same technique are used by huge company, politics and stuff, to sell their message, to convince people subconsciously through TV, video game and stuff. But and after, if a teacher is coming and start to use it with his own limited means, of course, sometimes it's limited, it looks little, and it's like, well, no, it's just this guy, it's just and at the same time, it's always this. But I think the mindset also, we are pushed to fight the old stuff. Like if you see like climate change, we fight climate change. We need to fight CO2. No. And Eisenstein is good for that. He's like, stop this old story, the old narrative. Stop fighting. Like put your intention, and as you said, your awareness on what you want. So if you don't want this big family stuff, if you don't even put your attention on it, after it doesn't mean to ignore the bad stuff. If people they do horrible things, like of course we have to stand up for our right and people to be respected and stuff. But there are a lot of time spending spending to against things, and I think we can spend more time to focus on what we want. In sport, in peak performance, one of the first teaching, most of people, when they are frustrated, they don't perform well or something, their mind is going too much into what they don't want, what they fear. And we do the same in society. Sport is just an accelerator of what's happened in society. There are all these potential fear. We are more or less friend with them, and as soon as something happens, we put our attention on this. But because we didn't really spend time to cultivate and to give space to other things. And after, if the new generation, no matter what they do, they start to get in sync with themselves, deep breathing, to change their attention. We call that all focus, double HOLE, all focus, because it's really like the Zen stuff. You defocus your eyes. This narrow focus, it creates a tension, block in your body, in your mind, and it makes you tired, stressed. You live on stress. And when you're able to defocus your eyes, which is relevant to the Zen teaching of looking up, sky gazing, and all this stuff. So you start like that, deep breathing intention. After, it will be normal, and just from this increase in harmony in themselves, it will be contagious with the environment. And after, in this environment, you won't have, you will have less crazy stuff, negative stuff, because from inner peace and space, violence doesn't come up from that. Violence, adversity, no. From space, inner peace, calmness, and what comes, it's more peace, it's altruistic behavior, it's sharing, it's kindness. So that's the thing. Violence doesn't come from violence comes from exclusion, feeling disconnected, feeling hurt, feeling separated. Like if you see people, they feel separated, like there is a separation, isolation, and disconnected from like the link is broken somewhere. So if you reconnect and have space, the negative doesn't come from emptiness. After, the thing is, there is a inherent, there is a inner nature of our universe. There is a polarity. There is night, day. There is this yin-yang stuff, which is a one-word yin-yang. It's yin-yang. It's not yin and if you fight something like crazy, the other stuff is going like it's the same things than in your brain. There is you make things. It's even different, but there is action reaction. If you like this ultra thing, if you do something for the good and you do something to connect people for the good, you will have a force trying to push you in the other direction. There is always this, and it will happen. If you create, there is always the polarity, and once you accept this polarity, you can make things move. Because as soon as you focus your attention on the negative, which is one side of the polarity, you focus your energy into it. It's not what you want. If you want the good, the positive, if you have your vision, focus on this. And be aware of the other side. Don't ignore it, because it's here. You cannot remove it. You have to be aware of it, but don't focus all your energy on this stuff. Put your attention on what you want to create, and it will happen. So that's so be aware of. It starts with a new generation, and with very simple things to make them very early. Go to nature, let them space, let them be more. Like I teach a lot of kids from private school, and they are frantic. Their mind is never. They have no moment to rest, to have this space. We are creating a generation of stressed, frantic kid. I can guarantee you, and you can tell the difference with the kid in the country and the kid in the city. And we have to find a way to keep the connection for this huge amount of kids in the city. And after, very simple, deep breathing instead of talking and teach, like just make them, if they are upset, like deep breathing, the core practice of any spiritual teaching since 5,000 years ago is deep breathing, because it will always win against your mind, your body, your nervous system, and because deep breathing, it affects your heart, and your heart will win over what you think. So it starts like that with the young generation, and after, from this, there will be more toward this group effect and stuff. So that's the message. It's simplicity and space for kids.
I love it, man. I agree with all of that 100%. I'm so grateful for your work, for coming on the show, for coming from working on rockets to over on Peak Performance and thinking about kids and collaboration. I know that you have some courses online. I'm sure they're amazing. So I'm excited to go through some of your flow state stuff. And what I say all the time about, the Zen athlete stuff that I created for people is it's not just for sport. You can use it for anything. Right? So I invite people to check out your program, because the ideas are simple, but they're game changing. So, start to look at all of them. And if you do 10 courses or 5, you're going to realize that you just implement these simple things as you go along. It's just not common knowledge right now. Most people aren't using any of this. So once you hear it a few times, you begin to integrate it. You have a few processes to go through. You're going to notice and experience the shift. So I definitely invite people to check out your stuff, check out my stuff, check out any of the stuff around Zen, Peak Performance, because that idea and the reason why it excites me is because I can hear in your message that it's both, and it's the exact same way that I viewed it and bridged it, and have seen incredible change in people and organizations. Is you need both. Most people just focus on Peak Performance, but you have to focus on the Zen part, the fulfillment part, the space part. But when you have those two working together, however you can hear it and apply it, it's a game changer and incredibly powerful. And if we can somehow implement this at a society level to kids, to make ultrasync and show what groups can do with intention, such a simple idea that's not being measured and could have it could literally be something that could shift the trajectory of our planet. That's how big I see it in consciousness and everything. Once we realize that, and we can achieve it through sport, it would be like, oh my goodness, what the heck were we doing? How did we not know this? Why were we not using this? And so I 100% want to support that, get that out there, make it happen. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Any closing thoughts, and where can people find more about you and your work if they want to dive deeper?
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate that you share the same interest and vision, and so it's nice to see your enthusiasm for all this exciting stuff. And you can find my website. It's damienlafont.com.au because I'm in Australia. And so that's it. And you can find my work, and that's pretty much it. But thank you, because it's good to share these simple things, and I think if it can touch even few people after, they can start to think a little bit differently. It will be awesome, and I really believe it's in the new generation to to make them feel there is well, they are not alone, and there is something greater. They can. It's amazing. It's very exciting time, and like everybody from different backgrounds, they start to merge their knowledge, and it's. I think it's really good.
100%.
So
100%. Yeah, thank you
again,
so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it. We'll definitely be in touch and collaborate and stay together and have you back on, because we didn't even touch some of the other stuff. We just, but I know that there's a lot there and you're doing great work. So thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye bye. Thanks.
See ya.